welcome to today's feature, which is entitled Ravi's Fireside Chat with a Bid, and it's hosted by Voice Tech. Joining me today are two very distinguished gentlemen in the field of automation, AI, and the future. So joining me today is Mr. Ravi Saraogi, who is the co-founder and president of Unifor in APAC. And Ravi's responsibilities is he leads the sales and delivery and the customer success for the organization. It says his passion is for mobile learning applications and technologies, and it founded traction when Uniform was actually founded. Ravi, along with co-founder Umesh Sachdev, envisioned building solutions to give more power to human speech. I also read a statement which was very, very intriguing about Ravi, and it was mentioned that Unifor was actually founded to solve the frontier problem for the world and to bridge the gap between humans and machines through voice and automated intelligence. So yeah, hopefully we'll find out a little bit more as we go through today's chat. Also joining me is Mr. Abid Mustafa. He's joining from Dubai as we speak, and Mr. Abid is digital transformation advisor, specializing in robotic process automation, okay, and conversational artificial intelligence. He's based in Dubai, as I mentioned. So these two distinguished guys join us today to talk about what is actually current in the industry. Let me start by asking Ravi. Ravi, given Unifor's rapid expansion into conversational automation services, where do you see most room for growth?
That's a great question, Chris. Thanks for having me on your show today. And Abid, good to have you on the call as well with me on the Fireside Chat. Chris, to your question, basically, if you look at the overall contact center domain and customer service market, right, over the years, call centers have been prevalent, and a lot of investments have gone in the call centers to really convert them over a period of time into contact centers by moving from analog signals to digital, enabling chat, email interfaces, social media, and then bringing in new age CRM technologies, all playing a major part in moving a call center to a contact center. But what has really basically left behind is the overall experience that the customer has to go through when they make a call. And what got left behind is the actual front office when the conversation happens between the agent and the customer. And if you look at the major factors of growth in the contact center domain today and the customer service industry, it's the whole element of really putting the focus on the front office and thereby looking at the areas of improvement in customer experience. Now, as we all know that in today's day and era, what really trumps in terms of customer retention and acquisition of new customers is how you actually deliver the overall experience to the consumers. There was a time when people would save $1 to and spend 10 minutes in saving that $1. In today's day and era, one would spend $10 to save a minute. That's how the world has changed. And when you spend that $10 to really put focus on that a minute, you want the great experience to be delivered to you within that minute itself. And that's where most room for growth would come, in our opinion. The second aspect is, if you look at the current situation, especially during the pandemic, what really was in the back burner, the transformation practices that organizations were really focused on, has really taken great shape because of non-availability of contact center agents and service agents, and them being working from home, pushed organizations to think laterally and bring in digital practices faster and sooner rather than later. And with all that in place, what really has been put to focus is how transformation put focus on customer service, at the same time really improve the overall customer experience. So productivity tools, enablement of quality automation across all the calls, across all the agents, real-time analytics, and enablement of digital channels, be it voice or chat, all has taken now centerpiece and get aligned with the overall enterprise goals. So that's where we see the maximum room for growth, Chris.
Yeah, I would agree with you fully. I mean, my own experience is actually, running the customer services side. So there was a lot of understanding in exactly what you said, Ravi. So yeah, really appreciate that explanation. Let me kind of move now to Abid, if I could. Abid, I've got a question, but it's kind of in two parts. So let me kind of address it to you in whole, and then let's break it up into two parts if we can. So Abid, what impact have you seen with conversational artificial intelligence, and what's it having, in terms of on customer service across the whole of the MENA region so far? That's kind of part A. And part B is really, how open do you feel MENA consumers are to virtual assistants being used for customer services?
Hi there, Chris. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you very well.
Okay. All right. I think probably the best place to start is actually talk about the market size and the growth of AI within the Middle East. And then I can probably come to the point about conversational AI. I mean, I was just actually looking at some IDC stats, and it was quite noteworthy to see that in 2018, IDC were talking about the size of the AI market within the Middle East, and they mentioned that it was worth around about $262 million. And by 2023, they projected the AI market to grow to about 600. So, I mean, that's a very interesting report. But at the same time, they mentioned that the key driver behind this was actually customer satisfaction and customer experience, which is quite revealing, because that actually means that conversational AI has a huge role to play when it comes to satisfying customers and improving the overall experience that they may face or they may come across. Now, going back, another report from PwC this time, they took almost like a 10-year horizon, and they looked at this decade that we're in. So they took the view that by 2030, what is the AI market going to be like? Now, the two growing economies that you have in this part of the region that are growing, and at the same time, they're very sophisticated, that's the UAE and also Saudi Arabia. So for UAE, they were projecting that by 2030, the AI contribution to UAE's GDP will be in the region of about $96 billion. That's almost like 13.6% of their GDP. Saudi Arabia is not far behind. Saudi Arabia was projected to be, the AI market is projected to be worth 124 billion, which is about 12.4% of GDP. So these numbers show you that in this part of the world, there is a huge growth opportunity for AI. Now, going back and just want to now elaborate on conversational AI, because like I mentioned, nowadays, there is a huge growth in conversational AI. Now, when we talk about conversational AI, we are talking about chatbots, we are talking about virtual assistants, and usually these type of technologies are employed within call centers, or like Ravi mentioned, contact centers, where you have multiple channels. And the reason that they're employed within the call center, because the call centers are very expensive to run. You have a huge, you can say FTE or a PTE base. A lot of agents are employed, and there's pressure on a lot of companies whether it's banks, utilities, telecoms, to actually reduce the cost. And the way to reduce the cost is to actually employ these type of technologies. So, for example, the way to employ these technologies can be for a number of different ways, but I will just give two, you can say, examples. They're simple queries. So if I ring a bank, I'm on the call center, I may have a simple query, say, give me my last 6 transactions, or when can you give my statement? If I ring a telecoms company, I may say, look, what is my package? I mean, what do I have in my package? How many add-ons do I have? And if I ring a utilities, I may just want to say, can I pay my bill, please? Now, these are simple queries. You don't really need a live agent to handle this. So you can have a chatbot interfacing with the customer. You can have a virtual agent integrated with the IVR that can handle these queries. And the cost can be substantially reduced. That's not an issue, and that is already happening across the Middle East. However, when it comes to like complex inquiries, like complaints, now this becomes quite tricky. So you may have a customer that may call a bank and may say, I have detected a transaction that I did not make. Now, AI or conversational AI, whether it's a chatbot, whether it's virtual agents, they find it very difficult to handle this. So typically what they will do, they may use sentimental analysis. It depends on the algorithm, and they will pass the call directly to a live agent. So the live agent will have a report saying, this is what the customer is asking for. As a virtual agent, we can't fulfill this. And also at the same time, the customer is quite angry. So we suggest that you calm down the customer before you address his query. So this is the type of examples that you find of conversational AI that are being deployed today in the different verticals across the Middle East. And on the last note, what I will say, 2 things, is that I don't see less chatbots and virtual agents. I see more chatbots and more virtual agents proliferating the Middle Eastern market. And I also see, perhaps in the horizon, virtual reality augmentation. What I mean by that is that rather than having a mundane screen as a chatbot or as a voice integrated with the IVR, you probably will have avatars that will mimic the personality of agents, and they will interact with the customers. So that's what I foresee in the future. So I'm going to hand it back to you, Chris. Over to you.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that last comment, actually, because I also see, particularly in MENA, in the Middle East and North Africa, purely because of the certainly from a consumer perspective, because of the complexity of multi-languages. Because if you kind of look into those countries, the highest end of the population are actually non-Middle Eastern, and non-North African. They're more, I mean, for example, in places like Dubai and Qatar in the GCC, very much the highest end population is more Southeast Asian, Indian, Pakistani, etc., and Filipino, ironically. So no, I totally agree with you. I really do. So again, thank you very much. That was very thorough and pretty much put everything into perspective. The next question I have for you, Abid, is, and I think I believe you kind of may have come across this in your last answer, to be fair. So I don't know if we can kind of highlight or narrow down any kind of further. But the question is, aside from customer experience, where do you see artificial intelligence having the most value as far as enhancing a business? Where do you see that?
Right. I think Chris, is a very good question. But I would like to slightly digress, if you allow me to. I think there is this notion out there in the marketplace that AI is a temporary phenomenon. It's not going to be around for a long time. It's a passing fad and it will fizzle out. And I think this is a totally wrong impression. Artificial intelligence is here to stay. And I will say that the present decade that we're living in is going to be the decade of artificial intelligence. And I think we are looking at probably at the beginning of the AI journey. Now, going back to, where AI is being applied, what I would like to add here is AI has become culturally invisible. And what I mean by that, if you look at your smartphone, you've got AI working in the background, right? And on your smartphone, you've got different apps. So you may have a supermarket app. Supermarket apps now are becoming notorious for, they look at your customer profile, they look at your data, and they're saying, well, and they send you reminders. We believe you're running out of cheese or you're running out of eggs. I think it's time to come and visit the supermarket. And then you got apps that deliver food. And every day, I mean, I love ordering lunch and dinner and so forth, but I get suggestions. We think you should have Italian today based upon your profile. And if you're lost, how many of us will use Google? We use Google Maps, we use Waze to find our way. In other words, all these examples I'm mentioning, I mean, let's say Netflix and Amazon, they use recommendation engines. So whatever you want to watch, whatever you want to buy, they will tell you, we believe you need this. So AI has already become culturally invisible, meaning people ignore it. They take it for granted. Now, like I mentioned in my previous statement about China and about America, the key game changer is 5G. So if you look at the 5G use cases, what you're going to find now, you're going to find that with 5G and edge computing, you're going to have AI use cases that are mind-boggling. So for example, I mean, I wish you were in Dubai because Expo 2020, it is actually showcasing some of these technologies, 5G use cases. So let me give a couple of examples to illustrate the point. So you're gonna have a surgeon that sits maybe in one city, let's say London, and that surgeon is able to operate on a patient in Manila, where you are, right?
Yeah.
So there's probably a robot, and that robot is being operated by a surgeon thousands of miles away, but in real time. And the reason it's possible is because of 5G. 5G offers more data, real time, less latency, instantaneous, you can say real-time action. Another example, especially let's say if you're familiar with, let's say, mining and so forth, what you may have, you've got computer or machine operators using AI over 5G, sitting in one place, and they're operating excavation machinery, complex machinery. They're going deep down into mines to excavate, let's say, the raw material without anyone becoming injured. So all of this is a game changer. So just to emphasize, and I just want to stress this point. Yes, we talked about conversational AI, but there's a whole range of use cases that are about to be discovered. And businesses that have three things will succeed. They have access to data, they have sophisticated AI algorithms, and they're able to think out of the box and generate use cases. It's very difficult right now to find one company having all three. So businesses, they will need to partner with a number of different businesses and collaborate together in order to deliver these services in the next few years. So I'm going to hand it back to you, Chris.
Again, amazing, and lots and lots of it, kind of examples, really, of how customer experience is being enhanced, and even bringing it down to raw values of I think you need to buy some cheese. So great stuff there, Abid. Thank you.
Chris, again, to that point, I mean, what Abid said is absolutely to the point. It's becoming invisible and virtual in our lives, how AI is playing a part. We all have home devices at our home. Our phones have today a microphone open all the time, which listens to us without us knowing as much. So when you go ahead and talk to your family members and talk about vacations, and then you open up Facebook or Google search, you will suddenly see ads floating around about vacations of those locations that you were talking about. Now, in your own world, you were having those conversations, believing that no one was listening to you. But with all those devices around you, someone is all the time listening, and then there are AI algorithms running on the back end, propagating all the ads in front of you, making you choose one of them so that they can have more sales done. I mean, these are pervasive, breaking the elements of privacy as well. But then such is the world that we are living at this point in time.
Yeah, totally. Amazing. I tell you what, you kind of think but by listening to you guys, it kind of brings it right back into reality, and that's what I found very, very interesting listening to certainly the points raised on the last question. Let's come to something now that that really is kind of apt. And I'm gonna ask Ravi if possible to kind of give me the response on this one, and then if Abid still has some time, he can also respond. But we're not going to have a fireside chat without discussing COVID, right? So really, Ravi, to what extent do you think the COVID pandemic increase the demand for conversational automation services? What do you think that did?
Chris, there are some data points which are very, very critical for me to answer this question, and then how transformation really took place post-pandemic in the areas of customer service. If you look at the way businesses were geared up prior pandemic, the entire ecosystem of customer service was running out of a physical location where all the agents would come to a single location, put their devices in a locker, and then go to the floor to start picking up calls or making calls in an outbound scenario. But as the pandemic started and laid its hand across the globe and the world went into lockdown, we were forced to work from home. Not only as contact center agents were forced to work from home, but everyone was within their own residences. What that led to was the number of available contact center representatives out there for enterprises went down by a staggering number of 23 to 24% across the board, right? In them being available in their homes with all the connectivity, with the devices, etc. At the same time, we as consumers who had access to physical locations to resolve our query, complaint, and requests, to bank branches or insurance offices or telecom service provider offices, etc., we were compelled and forced to make phone calls or use digital services to avail those services. And that number staggeringly increased by about 17% as some of the reports from McKinsey and Forrester's of the world. So the overall gap was somewhere in the range of 37 to 39% that was created. Now, for enterprises, what really meant was that overnight, how can you get from a COVID situation to a BAU mode without impacting the overall experience and continuity of services for its own consumers, right? Now, two or three things that really took big shape in this particular situation. One, the entire element of security had to be looked at immediately, because from a single physical location, if everyone was working from home, that basically opened up the entire arena for the hackers of the world to really tap into. And at the same time, as agents were working from home, it was difficult to understand if it is the right person who's speaking. Is it the same agent, or is it a family member? Is it a friend who are talking? So elements like biometric authentication, be it through video or through audio, came into being. And then as agents were working from home, how do you ensure and manage quality across 100% of the calls. Are they doing the right thing, speaking the right language, speaking the right output, managing compliance over those calls? So work from home agents became a thing. And then supporting work from home agents using technologies like conversational service automation became an important factor, right? And those are some of the things that really took big shape. The third and final element, Chris, that we saw in a big way, not only across the industry, but also across all our enterprise customers globally, was that because of a lot of pressures on sales and thereby the balance sheets and thereby the profitability and EBITDA margins, organizations and enterprise were compelled to really focus on bringing in productivity gains and cut the fat. If you cut the fat, you still can manage a profitability within the organization. And if you look at the biggest chunk of resources that are enabled with a large enterprise was in the contact center. And that was the first area of digital transformation that really took place. So things like real-time analytics, after-call work automation led by AI took a big shape. Enablement of RPA in front office across the board, then enablement of digital services, voice-based agents, etc. All this, which was sitting in the back burner and organizations were taking time to decide, overnight changed and the decisions were taken immediately, right? So that really transformed, in my opinion, the overall industry. So pre-pandemic, if you look at the customer service market, Chris, was touted to be overall at about $380 billion, right? But immediately as the pandemic started, in 3 to 4 months time frame, the entire industry really transformed, and the current TAM of that particular industry ranges in about $470 to $480 billion. So there was an overnight increase of about 20 to 25% in the overall segment of customer service.
Wow. Amazing stats there. And, obviously we don't know how long it's going to be around for, but certainly, the elements that kind of will exasperate, more updates and more kind of increase in technology will be the fact that if contact call centers or customer support centers in various countries are forced to, through government initiatives, take the Philippines, forced to have their people work from home, then it's only going to exasperate the situation, which is, which could be like, a natural way of actually progressing. But that brings on a whole separate subject of its own, Ravi, in terms of, the balance between human and AI or automation. My last question actually is more aimed at you in a personal aspect, and that is that you can't help to notice that since the beginning of 2021, where everybody has been kind of retrenching, going to remote working, Unifor itself has actually been very heavily been aggressive really in the acquisitions market. So I really wanted to talk to you really about the two acquisitions, or the one main acquisition and the one that we're still talking about, and hopefully there could be an update from you, because I think the last announcement was kind of August 2021. But where do these two companies, and I'm talking about Emotion Research Lab, and I'm also talking about the Jacada acquisition as well. What are the roles of these two companies in the Unifor's growth story, Ravi, please?
So, Chris, you mentioned about Unifor growing in an aggressive manner and investing in large areas. John, who's our investor and the board member, John Chambers, and he has seen a lot of ups and downs in his own career over building Cisco from a $50 million enterprise to a $50 billion enterprise. And John always says this, that when there is a downturn, in the market. And if you really stick to your culture, and if you really stick to your aggressive goals, and if you come out of that, then you actually have an opportunity to become the leader in that market. And that's what really got us going and really figuring out how do we differentiate ourselves and continue to grow during the pandemic situation when there was an absolute downturn across the globe. Now, if you look at where things were pre-pandemic, we were doing most of our business, especially marketing events, hiring, selling, etc., all were happening largely in person. The amount of travel each one of us ended up doing at that point in time was massive, right? I used to take about 6 flights a week, at least 3 locations every week, and be out for 4 days a week all the time out of Singapore. From that to now, everything has moved to a virtual world. All our conversations have been happening over voice channels and video has taken great shape. Now, as a company, Uniphore was focused towards building conversational service automation platform with a lot of capability around voice and AI coming in together. But with the onset of video capabilities as well, we found that there are enough opportunities and use cases for us to really focus on and bring a combination of voice and video AI together, which can be extremely transformative, right, in the way the world is progressing. And it's a natural progression for our platform as well, because we have the capability anyways to understand what the person is saying, what are the emotions behind it, how are they saying it, to whom they are talking to, etc. From that, if we also have the capability to really authenticate the person using their own facial behaviors and also understand the emotions on how they are speaking, then that can bring in a true transformative way of really understanding the conversation. Right? And when we are on video channels, we have 10 people, 20 people on those calls, the ability to read the room, which we had when we were sitting in actual boardrooms and doing those conversations, has gone suddenly. You cannot keep track of 10 different people in a single screen. So that's where technologies like conversational service automation, along with video capabilities, can bring in a transformative change in giving us a hint about who is doing what in that call, how many people are attentive, how many people are promoters of your conversation, how many people are detractors, how many of them are neutral, how many are looking at their phones, how many are really dozed off. All of those can be really highlighted real time. So Emotion Research Lab actually came into being through that whole thought process, and the acquisition happened sometime in February this year, and that has now just got enabled into the platform, and we are going to soon launch the beta version of our product capability around video. With Jakarta coming on board, the idea was to really go into a motion where we can enable the entire platform on a low-code, no-code avatar and enable it for our customers and partners alike to really take it up all by themselves and execute all the use cases that they wish to without having too much of a technical knowledge, but having all the industry experiences that they have. So you asked for an update on Jakarta. We are in the final stages of finishing the legal framework and legal paperwork with them. And as that gets done, it will be completely integrated into the ecosystem of Uniphore.
Fabulous, fabulous. Listen, I wish you continued success. You know, for you know, the rest of this year and years to come, Ravi. It's been really great speaking to you today, and likewise speaking to Abid. That was Ravi's Fireside Chat with Abid, and that was hosted by Voice Tech. And I'm Chris McIntosh, the Chief Operating Officer for Call Center Universe. And I want to say thank you very much indeed to both gentlemen for their time today. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.